So if this is a registration application, and where we can register any user. Okay, in this we have separate modules. One is authorization module. So where we can we have to authorize a user, and then it has its own roles, like if it is an admin or if it is a regular candidate, regular user. Second thing is, if it is admin, then he can do some extra things, so that we have to manage. Next is the page where you can add or edit a user. Another page where you can search user. Another page is where you can list all of the users, right? And for each and every part there are two components, like one is client side and one is server side, for each one, for each use case. In order to add, there are two parts, like in client side you did your part, and in server side basically you received this API and then you did some database operation, correct? So let's say if there is one person, I got this module, authorization module, I was working on authorization module, correct? And in that case I was taking care of entire slice. I worked both in client side and server side, and I was focusing on authorization. What I did is, I took the request, and from that request I had to check if in that request, in the cookie, if it has a token or not. If token is there, then whether it is expired or not. If it is expired, then I had to redirect into the login page, so that candidate or whoever is the user can do again a login, and then create again another new token and put it into cookie and come back again. This was the requirement of this module. And I had to manage the token in the server. I go to the server, get the new token, assign it to the cookie, and put some expiry date so that I can check next. And this is not a small task. It is a task where you go 2 or 3 sprint, and you work for, if my sprint is for 2 weeks, I may estimate this task saying that, okay, this is a like 6-point story. If it is a 6-point story, then it cannot be done within 1 sprint, based on your team capacity. Let's say my team capacity is one person takes 2 points to work whole 2 week. He cannot take more than 2 points. So then in that case, if this authorization module is 6 points, then I worked entire 3 sprint to solve this problem, to integrate this part of thing. Similarly for add, edit and edit, whoever was assigned for add and edit use case, I was more on focusing on registering an existing user and modifying existing user. Registering a new user and modifying the existing user. So that was my use case, and I estimated that based on my analysis, that the rules and business rules that we had to follow. And then I had another, like both client side and server side component of it. I had to set up routers, I had to set up the all the validations and custom validators, right? And you may have to use your own custom validators, and we used Angular. We will be using Angular, let's say. Then if we are using in our Angular project, I had to add a lot of custom validator directives that I hooked up with the Angular. So in client side there was work, and there is a work in the server side where you do some other validations, whether it is already registered, then either to do it or don't throw any exceptions, what will happen if concurrency will happen. So those kind of consideration, I handled all of that, and I estimated this as a 10-point story, and I did, like, let's say 5 sprint I worked on it. And similarly each person worked on their own module. It's not that I just worked on the entire website. You cannot do like that. So then what happened in the source code? So this is what you are looking, or something else? Just let me know. It is good. So in the source code we have the repository where we have a source code, and in that source code per sprint everybody is working on different module. So let's say if this is a source code and here there is nothing, it has just index.html, and so far nothing is working. So I was assigned authorization module, so I have to put my module here. So I just created my authorization as a as a folder, as a feature folder, as a feature module, and I created my own authorization module. And inside that authorization module, I put my all components, directives, pipes, whatever it was required for, and some custom validators. All of them I have to put here. And similarly, in the server side, this is all in the client, right? And similarly in the server side, okay, in the server side I have again authorization folder. Under that I have set up my own routes. This is my route that I put for just authorization, and this is routes.ts, and it has all of the route and then their corresponding route handlers. So for each use case you have one handler, and I showed the example. So in our previous video you can go how we did, right? Per route there was one handler and who was taking care of that server side task. So you have two categories, two part, and that way I just plugged in my part with 3 or 4 sprints, and I did TDD. So I did some test cases also for each file. For each use case I have a spec.ts file, and I can do all testing, and that way I was contributing. And this is one of my project, and this way I did many other projects. If you are interested, ask me. And that way I can explain that I worked on authorization module and I worked on registration module. You can say that I worked on some infrastructure module where I created couple of shared a couple of core components. For example, toolbar I created toaster service. Those kind of services I created, which is shared across the application, and that was my task. And couple of sprint I worked, and I learned many stuff. I learned how to organize our project. Our project is big, and I have like 20 modules in my project, so therefore we have to organize our project. And I'll teach you how you organize based on the shared module and core module. I will teach you in my coming session. But let's say that is the point that you will raise, like that is why the session that I will take, it will give you some bigger picture so that you can tell in bigger way, right? We will do those sessions, and that's how let's say you did the core module, right? Somebody can say, okay, I was working on feature module as well as there was some other module, let's say from some shared module I worked on, right? For example, like in our project, for any candidate, for any user, we wanted to put the star rating, like whether he is a 3-star user or 2-star and something like that. And this star component, I do not want to just like import it everywhere. Like it will become a hell. Like everywhere I just keep importing everywhere. So couple of like that, I have many other directives, pipes, filters which are shared, and I worked on it and I created. You can come up with some examples that you worked on it, right? So that way I worked with feature module, plus I did some of the shared and core part of it. And that way from last 2 months I have been working on this. Let's say 3 or 4 sprint it went, means 2 months. Based on the sprint rate, that capacity that you work. And then see, this is what the thing is. If you design this way, like you have a feature module and you have a corresponding server side code, then independently people can work on it. Because the other person who is not touching an authorization module, he can just work on other feature called as add use case, add user or register user. Right? So this way we all contributing towards the source code and we were working. Right? So while describing your roles and responsibility, you need some bigger picture also. You need to understand whatever you are doing. Let's say you are doing Java or you are doing C# or you are doing Angular. You need some higher big picture to understand and organize your project, right? So like in Angular also there are some architecture design that you follow in order to organize your project. Those you have to understand. If you are doing .NET or C# code or Java code also, you have to organize your system there. Presentation layer code, I organized with MVC pattern. Server side code, I organized with either layered architecture or I did the component architecture that we discussed. Handler. There should be just one project for one use case. Right? So that is 2 different paths. So is there anything else we should discuss on this, or what kind of information we wanted?
Like how you use React or Node in your project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The first session that I took, it will give you a lot of answer. How you use Node, why you use Node, where you use Node. Those answers you will get from that question, that session that we did. And this one will give you the one example to put yourself off up to 3 sprint or 4 sprint of task. Tell that we worked on 4 sprint, or if you are in waterfall, then tell that lagatar till 2 months I've been working on this module and I am currently working on this module. So they will focus more on that module only. If you say that from last couple, I can explain my work, but let me explain the recent work that I have been working on and still continuing. That way you can just bring them to current rather than the history. Unless they ask, like last time they asked you that give me your previous company detail. That's a different use case. But normally they will ask explain your project. That's what they will say. And then you bring them, you say that okay, let me explain my recent project that I have been working on, and in our case we have a 2-week sprint, and I have assigned 6 points, and per sprint I just one person works with two points, and I have been giving the entire story. I have been getting the entire story on my plate, right? Because in our company we own the entire ownership, entire PBI, the entire PBI we own it kind of. Per sprint I own some part of it and I do it. So I divided it into 3 parts, 2, and I have been working on it, and I can explain you what I did. And then in authorization you can tell that in Angular you did guard, you did in the guard operator you always call this service to check, and all of that you did whatever.
Protection.
Yeah, those things we should explain. That in Angular what are the things you used, like token, cookies, guard operator. So those things we have to explain. And that way also we work. I also work this way only in my company also. I get one PBI, and if it is 3 point or 4 point, I break it and I say okay, it will be 2, and then I take 2 point. I work on it, and then my environment setup, everything I decide how I need to set up environment. And once environment is set up, that environment every team also set up the same way. So that way it works.
Is Angular and React both similar, or?
Yeah, they both are component based architecture, and they both are fantastic framework and very competitor to each other. Even I have been learning React and Vue.js by my sidewise. I am not in my current work. I am using Angular, but React, Vue.js I keep learning because I love JavaScript. JavaScript is my favorite topic, so I just learn whatever JavaScript frameworks comes. Even Stencil I have been learning. I've been learning other closer JS also. So the more you learn, you know the different paradigm, and they all learn each other and they grow.
So
right? Even Angular learn from others.
Difference between Angular and React, if both are component based, what is the major difference between?
Major difference I explained last time. Major difference is the HTML part. I told right last time that HTML is there in Angular as a separate file, and you can require it separately, but in React you cannot do it.
We have covered in it.
Okay, so in React you write JavaScript inside the component itself. First thing. Second thing is, and it is in different language. It is not HTML. It is JSX or TSX. It is an X at last. So their extensions are JavaScript X. If you want to do React, you have to use this extension. Because why it is X? Because you do HTML also, some user experience thing also there. So inside that you embed your HTML. That's the difference.
Okay.
Third difference is no DI. There is no dependency injection, because they work more on functional programming language. And in functional programming there is no DI. The DI concept is there, but you do in a different way. You don't do like a service and inject and all of that and constructor and all. It's not like that. It's more of like functional. You build a lower level component, pure functions, pure components, and then you keep building the higher order components. You compose a lot of components and do. So that power is not there in Angular, but it is there in the React.js. In React.js you can compose many components. It's there in Angular. You can do that in a different way, but in React it is very easy to compose stuff, because those are like small pure functions. Components are treated as a function. You just take them and you compose a new function, which is composition of many functions. So higher order components they call it. in React. So those are the benefits, like things. So this is the major difference. There is no other difference. They all are they run very fast also. They both.
So React also have component, decorator. They also have
Yeah.
decorator.
Decorators I don't think they use. They have just the classes that you just apply and then you do, and they have base classes that you use, right? And in JavaScript also you can write ReactJS, but mostly Angular I don't think in JavaScript it is right now possible. They took TypeScript completely.
TypeScript, yeah.
But in React there are options. You can code it in JavaScript also. So if you are coding in JavaScript, there is no decorator, right? Because decorator is TypeScript concept.
TypeScript, yeah.
Therefore, I don't think they have it. They do not have it.
So we cannot write in TypeScript, React?
React you can write in TypeScript, but decorator they have not used from TypeScript. Decorator is an experimental topic. It may come and go. If it will go, Angular will rewrite. They will rewrite. They are good in rewriting, right? And then they will screw the entire world. They'll say, hey, now Angular 10 is coming with no decorator. That's the problem. Because it is they call it experimental feature. And similarly Vue.js. Vue.js also TypeScript you can do.
Can we use both Angular and React in the same project?
In the same application?
No.
You can do, but it depends like how, because those are the apps that you take and then you bootstrap, right? Finally. So you can do that, but you cannot communicate between them. You cannot route, cannot use the router, their services and all of that. So it will be difficult. Like even Angular JS and Angular 2, it is difficult to combine both of them. Some people ask also, I have a legacy project, can I just do on the same project, can I do Angular 5 work in Angular 1.js? You could try, but it is difficult to bridge them. That effort is equal to convert the AngularJS maybe.
Angular 1, like AngularJS doesn't have TypeScript, right? It is written in JavaScript, right?
Yes, but you can even do in TypeScript.
JS.
Yeah, Angular 1, yeah.
Yeah.
Because in our project we did entirely TypeScript, even AngularJS only.
Okay.
Right, because they have their types package that you install and do it. So they have corresponding types. So mostly it is not advisable to do that, both 2-3 frameworks in one project. It is not advisable, and I have never done that kind of work. And nobody does that. Mostly you will not advise to do it. If it is some problem is there and they are doing it, that's a separate situation. But you will never advise to do that. They may ask a tricky question, but you may say no. Yeah. Anything else on? So project-wise, I would say like this only, take the ownership of some of the modules that you worked on. That's what I wanted you to work, but we couldn't do that because you guys are not free, right? But once you free up a little bit, then you can build the project together. We will create a repository and then where we'll contribute. I think in GitHub 4 people contributing in one repository is free, I think. There are restrictions how many, but I think they have TFS. Dilip has that TFS access, so we can create source control in one place and then everybody can work. But let me know when you are available. You have to learn little fast, and then we can do. So today it is 6:27. So let's do quickly the description what we will do, and then we will try. If it is time, then we'll do something. Okay.